Prepare to experience the strongest radio allowable by law. Secrets will be revealed. Myths dispelled. From the studio gym where excuses never apply, it's Superhuman Radio with your host, Carl Lenore.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Superhuman Radio. Today is Tuesday. We are performing the BluePrint Power Hour with my co-host, Coach Rob Regish, in just a moment, where we answer your questions about everything: training, nutrition, drugs, supplementation, sex. There's nothing that's off topic. If you're watching live, you can post your questions right here where you're watching the show, if you're on YouTube or Facebook. And we will get to every question and comment, I promise you. We always do. Sometimes we can't get to it till towards the end. And if you can't stay with us live, you can always come back and check later. But I promise we will get to every comment and question, no matter what it is. Before we start, I have to thank our title sponsor. And that is the most amazing snack company in the world, Legendary Foods. They are the makers of the tasty pastry. If you don't know what it is, you're really missing out. It started out as a Pop-Tart, became so much more. It's thick, it's flaky. It tastes like you're eating real cake with icing on top and filled with icing. It's delicious. They're better than ever. They redesigned them. They're constantly improving them. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary. Use the code SHR10 for 10% off. 20 grams of high-quality protein, less than 1 gram of sugar in every single tasty pastry. Give them to your kids. They won't know that they are good for them. Now, we give away tasty pastries on every show. If you listen during the commercial break, you'll hear a secret word. Just simply email that secret word to onair@superhumanradio.net and include your mailing address, and we will send you a box. Please be patient. The response so far is overwhelming. But everyone will get their free box of tasty pastries, I promise you. And without further delay, let me cue up his music first. I'm doing 6 things at one time. There we go.
Calling all BluePrint Army. Fall in line. It's time for the BluePrint Power Hour with Coach Rob Regish on the Superhuman Radio Network.
Hey, Rob, how you doing?
I am doing okay. It is 75 degrees up here, and finally it has stopped raining. So I'm grateful for that. Uncharacteristically, I didn't sleep as well as I normally do last night. Probably still better than a lot of people, but boy, you really do feel it.
Do you sleep with your home warm or cool?
Well, I have 2 options. Downstairs, it's cool. Upstairs, it's warm. So it really depends on the weather. Yeah. Sometimes I'll sleep down here. Sometimes I'll sleep upstairs. It just depends.
So I don't sleep well if the house is more than 69 degrees.
Really?
I have to keep the house at night. We keep the house fairly warmer in the very low 70s during the day, but at night I have to turn the air conditioning down to 69 because I just sleep so much better when I'm cooler. I get very warm. I tend to be someone who sweats easily. Yep. And I get really, really warm. Yep. And when I get warm at night, it wrecks my sleep. I think about it.
I rarely sleep with covers, even in the winter. So I might be the same way.
Yeah. Most people sleep better when it's cooler in the house. very few people, the only people I think that probably sleep better when it's warm in the house are those people who may already have some compromised thyroid issues and they tend to be colder. But that's like an inside cold. People say, "Oh, I'm just cold to the bone." You know, that's very, very different than being a normal temperature person and then being in a house that's cool. You know what I mean?
Right. Yep. I get it.
But yeah, very, very, very interesting. Like I said, I think people sleep better in the cool. I'm just, if anybody comments on Facebook now, we'll see their comments. So there you go. I had to do that. Anyway, how is your training?
Training is going well. I will probably be taking a week off within the next couple of days. All the little signs are there. So, it's been 4 to 6 weeks since I did that last. And that seems to be about right for me at 51 and what I'm doing, which is body weight stuff, but a hell of a lot more volume than I'm used to.
I am, my training is doing good. I take off because life makes me take off for a few days here and there.
Yep.
So I tend to train as many consecutive days as I can because then I generally know, I'm going to have to take a couple of days off that week. I'm going to have to take 3 days off. Like when I went to Legendary, I didn't train for 7 days.
Right.
I was there for a week and then I took a couple of days off when I got home. But part of the reason that I'm being forced to take off is I'm so excited. I don't think I've mentioned this yet on the show, but I'm stepping into the realm of being an inventor. And those of you who know I carry a gun may not know the story. So I want to tell it once and then we'll get on with the show. In November of last year, we were shopping for furniture for a new home. And I was in a furniture store with the damn mask on. When I have that mask, I can't see my feet. I can't see down. I can't see anything. And I carry my handgun, what's known as inside the waistband appendix, which is up front here, right in the front, which means anytime I unbuckle my pants, there's a risk that my gun could fall off. It's in a holster, but the holster clips onto the belt. And so when I use a public restroom, if I have to sit down and go potty or if I'm going to stand up and urinate, I generally take my gun off and put it on the urinal in front of me, which I did. I've done thousands of times before that day when we were in that furniture store. And the rest of the day was a blur because when I got home at 10 o'clock at night that night to get undressed, I said to Elisa, holy crap, where's my gun? And then I started playing back the day. Where's the last time I saw it? Oh my God. I put it on the back of the urinal at that store. And naturally I called the store. They had their phones forwarded. So then I called the Jeffersontown Police Department, which is that district there. And they sent somebody over and they checked the urinal. Now, remember, this was 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Now it's 10 o'clock at night. And of course, the cop said, there's no gun here. And all I'm thinking is, oh, great. Some kid found the gun, shot his sister, his 9-year-old sister. And now I'm going to be in court for the rest of my life now. And life was so good up to that second. And I was sitting there thinking, oh, my God, my life is destroyed. I'm going to have to separate myself from Elisa. I don't want her to get dragged into this. We just bought this new house. And I'm like, oh, my God. Well, long story short, I did find the gun. I did have it in the house. I did not leave it there. But had I left it there, it could have really derailed the rest of my life, which made me wake up the next morning and think to myself, I have to find a way to alert if my gun is far away from me. It's out of my control. And I came up with an idea. I assembled some technologies using, smartphones and some other devices, and I patented it. There was no patent on anything like this already, and the patent has been filed, so I can talk about it. And it's called Gunny, the Gun Nanny, and it's a small little chip that you'll attach to your handgun, and you can attach it like to the magazine, under the Picatinny rail, or if you're right-handed, there's all this real estate here you could attach it to. And what happens is, if your handgun gets 10 yards away from you, your phone will go into an alarm. It will show you on using GPS where you were the last time it successfully communicated with your handgun so you can go back and get it.
Wow. Amen. That the necessity is the mother of invention, right?
And, there's 94 million handgun owners out there, and just 10 million of them since January of 2020, because people decided, like, I can't wait for the police to help me. I'm going to have to protect me and my family. So all sorts of people who never, ever thought they'd own handguns went out and bought handguns. And the police officer in J-Town, when I was making the report, said, this is happening more and more. This has become a common occurrence. In fact, he confided in me that it's his biggest fear when he goes out to dinner with his family, if he goes to use the restroom, that he'll forget his gun in there.
Yeah, I can understand why.
So Gunny will launch first quarter of next year, and I will be promoting it everywhere I can on other people's podcasts and magazines and so on, because it really is the answer to a devastating problem right now, and that is there are over 10,000 reported handguns lost a year. Those are the ones that are reported.
Wow.
Plenty of people lose their handguns and just don't say anything. They're just like, well, I'm just gonna, I'm not gonna worry about it. And new handgun legislature always includes the new handgun legislature that's being hammered out and wrestled with and redesigned, always includes assigning culpability to someone who lost or had their gun stolen if that gun was used in the commission of a crime. So that means if you lose your gun, you report it like you're supposed to, and then someone uses that gun in California to kill somebody, you'll get pulled into the lawsuit. Now, will they be able to prosecute you? Perhaps not, but you're going to have to go and get an attorney and all this other stuff. So not losing your handgun is about to become one of the most essential things that you can do in handgun ownership, and Gunny is going to be the exclusive solution for it.
That's a great idea, man. Good for you.
Yeah.
Happy for you.
So I'll keep everybody posted as this moves along, because once it's available, I will start making it available to my audience first, obviously. So there you go. Anyway, so shall we get to our first question, Rob?
Absolutely.
The first question is from Chris Kidd. Thanks for everything you do for the health community. My questions for you guys is on elevated hematocrit red blood cells. I was wondering if you have any recommendations on how to lower this without donating blood. I've switched from injections to gels and creams, and it still remains high. In the past, I even took much larger doses of what I'm taking now and never had this issue. Not sure if getting older is causing it or not. I'm only 40, been searching everywhere to find the root cause, but can't find much. I have some ideas, but go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, well, it's true. One of the quote unquote side effects of TRT is an increased level of red blood cells. The formal diagnosis being polycythemia. It does seem related to age, and the doctors that I've spoken to and the stuff that I've read, it's most frequently seen in white males age 40 and up, and much less frequently in those under 40. Why that is, there could be a number of reasons.
I'm going to tell you why it is.
It's not always because presto, you turn 40.
Right.
Yeah. So the concern here is that left unchecked, it can increase the viscosity of the blood, can make it a little thicker, and put you at higher risks of stroke and heart attack, etc. So while TRT is actually, let's call it the root cause, so to speak, of polycythemia, it's interesting to note that side effect too is actually a desired therapeutic quality in men with anemia. So, most steroids you'll see do this, right? They boost red blood cells. I first encountered it, I would say 6 months to a year, after I started treatment. And it's a good example. It's a really good example of why getting regular blood work is important, because, it's not something that you can feel most of the time, right? It's like high blood pressure. So, it pays to know and test for it. First thing I learned about it was that it's not as simple as, hey, the more testosterone you take, the higher your red blood cell count gets. I have seen it all over the board. There doesn't seem to be any correlation, at least in the the dosage swings, that I've seen and used. In fact, it can happen in as little as 100 milligrams a week, rather, in some people. So you need, you need not be taking super physiological amounts. That's pretty close to what a male makes at the higher end of the spectrum. Next, I learned that red blood cell elevations are not always a linear climb. And the way I learned this was I went to Quest once and I tested high enough to qualify for a therapeutic phlebotomy. And so I went to my appointment the following week, about a week later, to get it done. And they told me I couldn't, because when they retested me there on the spot, I wasn't high enough to give it. So I had a conversation with both the nurse and the doctor, and they said, yeah, it's not just, it keeps creeping higher and higher and higher. There are instances where it'll go down, it'll go up, and in some people it even stabilizes. The simplest solution to high red blood cells is to give blood or to have a therapeutic phlebotomy. We've talked about it before. It's like changing, your analogy was great, I thought. It's like changing the oil in a car. I tend to give every 2 months, which is, my doctor says that's a little too frequently, but I just feel better when I'm doing it that way. Now the question here though was, what if I can't do that? As for other ways to do it, I have seen other ways discussed, not many of which I think I'd recommend. There was some talk a while ago that IP6, inositol hexaphosphate, could lower red blood cell amounts, although I have yet to speak to anyone that's done that and been successful.
Dave Hartnett just commented that he took a gram a day.
Yeah,
helped him get back in range.
Okay, great. So if that's the case, terrific. I have also seen what looks like a home phlebotomy kit, which I definitely wouldn't recommend, because the potential is there for too much to go wrong, right? I mean, we're talking about going into veins. It can get.
You make a mistake, you'll bleed out. Most people who self phlebotomize do it in the shower.
Yeah,
just let the blood go down the drain while the shower is running. I know a good friend of mine who is a former EMT and fireman who does this himself, but his wife stands by, because God forbid, he knows how much to let out, but just let's say he gets woozy and passes out with that thing tapped in, he just bleeds out. So his wife stands by when he does it, and then he removes it and puts a Band-Aid on it. He's done. He does it at home. Right.
So that would be the exception, though, rather than the rule.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it. I'd be afraid to do it.
Right.
I'd be afraid.
I also learned in researching this that apparently a doctor can prescribe some drugs to mitigate the red blood cell.
But they have some nasty side effects.
Yeah, and like I was going to say, the two that I found are hydroxyurea and interferon alpha. I know nothing about those. I have heard.
Well, we know that urea buildup in the blood is dangerous, right? So urea buildup in the blood can become toxic.
Yeah,
it can cause delusions and like loss of consciousness and all that sort of stuff. It's not worth it. The easiest thing is to donate blood. It's the easiest thing, and in fact, there may be some other benefits to donating blood that will help you live longer, and that's been shown in several good studies done on populations of people who donate blood. Let me tell you the one thing that's the problem. It is the thing, and this is so. One of the things that testosterone levels do influence is iron accumulation. And iron increases red blood cell and raises hematocrit. Iron. What you need to do is check not only ferritin, because ferritin is not a good indicator of iron. Ferritin is a transporter protein, a chaperone, that can store anywhere from 1 to 40,000 molecules of iron. So having high ferritin that's not carrying much iron means nothing, but everybody looks just at ferritin, and that's a big mistake. The other thing is, we know more and more now that other things other than iron can raise ferritin. Inflammation raises ferritin. Vitamin C raises ferritin. So you need to go for ferritin and TIBC, total iron binding capacity. You want your TIBC below 50. Okay, you want it to have a lot of room for more iron to come in to the blood. But if you start donating blood, you automatically get rid of iron as well. The only other way to get rid of iron is become a long distance runner. Those who become anemic, because red blood cells appear to be damaged. It could be from foot strike. Some people think it's from the heel strike over and over again. Some think it's internal bleeding from the organs bouncing for hours and hours. But the spleen removes red blood cells and it's stored iron at the same time over time. As red blood cells become damaged or they exceed their lifespan, which according to science is only 90 days, that's where they get H1C, hemoglobin A1C from. But the best thing to do is start to look at your iron, because iron is the one thing we accumulate with age. So there's this magic. Well, once you get to 40, something magical happens. Yeah, for 40 years, you've been storing iron. Women don't have this problem until they go through menopause and they stop menstruating, and then they start storing iron also. So get your iron checked out and get it down low. Donate your blood, deal with it. Go and donate blood once every 2 months, and both your iron levels will come down and your hematocrit will come down, and then just donate blood once or twice a year after that. But try to keep your iron in the lower end of normal, and you won't have the problems with hematocrit anymore. That's my advice.
Good stuff.
Okay, the next question comes from Vinny Carterapoli. He says, in a past BluePrint Power Hour, you've said you've lost no size since switching to body weight stuff because the volume was higher. My question is, how much higher is higher, and what were you doing before?
This is a great question, and I was kicking myself for not doing this earlier because it's important, right? I mean, if people want to do this too, they have to know, if I'm going here, you need to know where you came from. So where I came from was, past work with weights would see me using, my first big movement, like let's say squats. I do anywhere from 3 to 5 sets, very heavy weight, and anything above 5 reps was high reps in my world. So a lot of work was done in that 3 to 5 rep range, and a fair amount in the 1 to 3 rep range as well. So right there, let's kind of ballpark it and say, my anchor movement, my first movement of the day, averaged, across all the sets, 12 to 15 reps, not a lot. Supplemental and assistance work usually saw me performing 2 to 3 exercises, but just 1 or 2 hard sets of somewhere between 5 and 8 reps. So let's call that an average of, 25 more reps. I really didn't go much further because, to be totally honest, and remember, I'm in my later years now, I didn't have as much left as when I was younger. Did I train with higher volume when I was younger with weights? Yes. Can I do that now? Or I just found out that I couldn't, or, I certainly didn't make the progress that I should have. A workout like that then with the weights might have seen me performing a total of anywhere between 40 and 50 reps. And look, I got very strong. I had plenty of muscle. I probably would have had more if I was eating more, but that hasn't been my goal for a long time. Taking up as much space as possible has not been a goal of mine for a while. A body weight leg workout today sees me performing anywhere from 250 to 300 squat type movements, right, per workout. So 5 to 6 times as many reps, in volume. Just looking at the beginning of the workout with weights, my first exercise, like I said, I did 12 to 15 reps over 3 to 5 sets. When completing my first exercise for body weight work, I'm already at 80 reps, 2 sets of 40 rock bottom body weight squats. So needless to say, this has been a major shift, right? Not just in what type of strength qualities you develop, but also psychology. And here's what I mean by that. When you lift weights, there's a lot more trepidation, a lot more excitement, whatever you want to call it, going into a workout where you're attempting a new 1 rep max. You do what you need to do to get up for it and get in the zone and get it done. And I tell you, you know this as well as I do. When you're successful, you're high as a kite, right? At least I was. I always really got excited when I hit the lifts that I had goals for. With body weight volume work, I have no concerns whatsoever that I'm going to miss, right, a lift or even complete all the sets and repetitions. It is simply a matter of slogging through it. And whether or not you need to tack on extra sets, let's say, in order to meet your rep target. You can't always do that, but you can always replicate the volume. Consequently, you don't need to psych up, right? By taking so much of your pre-workout, you're literally dancing in the gym, right, between sets at 4:30 a.m. And not only have I seen that, but I've done it too, so I understand it. So make no mistake, I'm into month 8 now with no weight. All measurements are the same. My joints feel much better. My waist is down almost 3 inches from what it was. Still capable of doing some very impressive things in the gym at age 51, right? And frankly, what I'm doing is what I need to be doing because I want to be doing this at 81 at a similarly high level. So that's my story on transition from weights to body weight.
All right, let's grab a couple questions from the audience. We'll start out with Craig Hollander. He says, could people during the day be hyperthyroid even if TSH looks normal? So TSH is just the driver of the thyroid to produce hormone, but it has nothing to do with in-tissue utilization of thyroid hormone. And what I mean by that is you can have tissue that acts hypothyroid because there's not enough selenium or iodine available to get T4 to convert to T3 in tissue. T4 converts to T3, and T3 is the active form that we perceive as thyroid hormone. And when we talk about thyroid, we talk about T3. That converts in tissue in the presence of selenium, iodine, and tyrosine. It's called the selenoenzyme cascade. And all thyroid hormone depends on that. You can have ragingly high levels of T4 and T3 in your blood, and your TSH can be perfect, but you could still have hypothyroidism if you don't have enough iodine, selenium, and tyrosine in your body. So I would look to supplementing with that. And I would start out with a Brazil nut or 2 every day, because that's the best source of selenium. You don't have to buy capsules. I would start out with buying some L-tyrosine, make sure that it's just L-tyrosine, doesn't have B6 or something else in it. And I would start out with 3/4 to a gram twice a day. And then I would get some kelp or, there's a lot of good thyroid supplements out there that have, all 4. They have iodine, iodide. They have phosphated iodine. You can get one of those and just take one of those every single day as well. Give it about 2 weeks of doing this, and you should see changes in what you consider being hypothyroid. That could be the magic for you. What do you think?
Yeah, 60 years ago, Vince Gironda was recommending kelp tablets to a lot of his guys, and raw glandulars and things like that. So I think he was onto it. I think that the overview that you just gave is certainly much more comprehensive. But I would agree, when thyroid issues present, looking at how much T4 converts to the active T3, that's one of the first places that I'd be looking. And
don't be afraid to ask your doctor for Armour Thyroid or Nature Thyroid. There's nothing wrong with backloading a little bit. Okay, Tommy D is asking you this question, I guess, when you were talking about doing body weight stuff. He says, are you still following Cavadlo Brothers program?
Yes. And so for those familiar with it, it's a 16-week program. Each phase is 4 weeks. I have just started phase 4, and it's difficult as hell. In the early stages, you progress very quickly. I'm finding in later phase 3, and certainly as I begin phase 4, it's going to take a lot more than 4 weeks. This is going to be, the long haul. I'm thinking 8 to 16. Yeah. Not easy stuff, what he's calling for.
We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we have more questions from the audience. We have questions that were sent in ahead of time. We'll get to everybody's questions today. You're watching and listening to the Blueprint Power Hour. Go to CoachRobRegish.com to learn more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Stay with us. Stay with us. Being superhuman means being conscientious about the choices we make. White Oak Pastures is superhuman when it comes to raising livestock. They're committed to animal welfare, land regeneration, and rural revival. They responsibly manage the entire process from the pasture to your doorstep. High-quality, pasture-raised, great-tasting meat from a farm you can trust. Full nose-to-tail selections. They even have options for your pet. Go to shrnetwork.biz/whiteoak and use code SHR20 to save 20% off your entire first order. Redcon One's new BAR bar is the ultimate soft-baked protein-packed snack bar, powered by peanut butter. Perfect for while on the go to help curb hunger or sneaky sweet tooth cravings. With 20 grams of protein, use as a meal replacement bar or when you're in need of a high-protein snack. Eat a Redcon One bar as a midday snack or for fuel before an intense training session. Go to shrnetwork.biz/Redcon1 and use the code SHR25 and save 25% off these delicious bars today. Circadian. Hey, this is Carl Lenore. Superhuman Radio is the longest running health, fitness, and anti-aging podcast in the world, going into our 16th year of continuous production. If you have a product that you think would appeal to the superhuman nation, we can get you on the air quickly and inexpensively to help promote your brand. Join the ranks of some of the largest and most successful companies in the world who know how great it is to be affiliated with Superhuman Radio. Contact Dan Kapitsky today at dan.kopitzke at superhumanradio.net to learn more. I keep saying the number one killer is insulin resistance. Managing blood sugar is the key to living long and aging well. But we all like to eat starchy carbohydrates and sugars from time to time. How do I manage this? I use a product called Blood Sugar Breakthrough by Bioptimizers. This easy-to-take supplement is the result of numerous tests to find the absolute best formula for maintaining healthy blood sugar. Blood Sugar Breakthrough works to safely lower blood sugar after meals so that you can maintain a healthy weight and redirect carbohydrates to your muscles where they can be burned as energy. This means you'll avoid the worst effects of high blood sugar, like weight gain and advanced aging, while enjoying more stable energy, mental clarity, and fewer cravings. Go to shrnetwork.biz/blood sugar and save 10% with code SHR10 today. Every day, there's a new wellness trend. Eat that. Do this. Avoid those. How do you know where to start or who to trust? Inside Tracker helps you cut through the noise by analyzing your blood, your DNA, your lifestyle, and your fitness tracker to provide you with a science-backed, trackable action plan on how to live, age, and perform better. Personalized, one-size-fits-one recommendations to help you optimize you. For a limited time, Inside Tracker is offering Superhuman Radio listeners 25% off the entire store. Go to shrnetwork.biz/inside tracker, INSIDETRACKER, to save 25% off. Change begins on the inside.
New Mass Pro Synthogen X2 just upped its own legendary game. To distance itself even further from the rest of the pack, Synthogen X2 now has double the key active ingredients. If you've ever wondered what steroid-like recovery feels like, Synthogen X2 delivers. See why others compare it favorably to powerful bodybuilding drugs at synthogen.com. Mass Pro Synthogen. When you train with it, you'll gain with it.
This is the Superhuman Channel, where brawn and brains finally meet.
Hey, welcome back. if you were watching the commercials, you see I screwed some of them up. I got to give a plug to White Oak Pastures real quick. So I've been eating White Oak Pastures beef for almost 6 months now because they're a sponsor. I got to tell you, man, it really is the best beef I've ever had. I'm going to feel bad because there's a chance they may not renew. Because it's going to be hard for them to be followed by somebody else. And I made some ribeyes the other day. The fat was so filled with carotenoids, it was yellow like butter.
Wow. No
one could believe that. Like when we made them, people were like, why is that so fat? I said, that's what it looks like if cows really are grass-fed. This is grass-fed, grass-finished beef. This is a sign. You have a concentration of carotenoids in the fat. The fat was yellow like butter. If you haven't checked out White Oak Pastures yet, you need to, because they really do have the best beef in the world. And like I said, it's going to be a hard act to follow because there's a chance that they may not come back. And I feel bad about it, but they have the best beef. Never mind the fact that they produce less of a carbon footprint than people who are growing soybeans. I mean, they're amazing. It's an amazing farm. Will Harris is amazing. Anyway, let's get back to the questions at hand here. So the next question comes from Mike Demers. He says, I think I have a prostate issue. I just turned 40, have occasional urgency to use the bathroom, and sometimes it feels like I can't empty my bladder fully. Is there... How do I know if this is something serious like prostate cancer? Well, the first thing you do is go to go to the doctor and be tested for prostate cancer. But don't buy elevated PSAs. If your PSAs are high, that doesn't mean you have prostate cancer. And in fact, if you have sex the day before you go have your prostate checked, your PSAs are going to be through the roof because every time you have an orgasm, your PSAs go through the roof. That's more evidence that PSAs are a bad indicator of prostate cancer. But go ahead.
So much like you know by getting it checked out, right? And
yeah.
So urologists certainly have that exam. They're probably going to do PSAs on you anyway, right? So I went through this at 45, right? A lot of the same issues, and I knew things were changing and not necessarily for the better. I was really worried, I'll be honest with you. So I saw a urologist, and the first thing they'll ask you to do, or at least they asked me to do, was use the bathroom, right? To see if you, and then they do an ultrasound on your bladder to see if it fully emptied. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, you're right, mine came back all good. And so then I was seen by the doctor, who gave me the lovely prostate exam. Mm-hmm. And again, I was worried about what he was going to find, but before he could take his rubber glove off, he's like, just matter of factly, he says, you've got an average size prostate for a 45-year-old man. And so usually I despise anything average, but I was really happy to hear that. I will tell you this though. You shouldn't end there because, like I said, the PSA, my HRT guy thinks the PSA is pretty darn indicative. But he also explained to me, and now I had on a scale of 0 to 4, I was 0.55. And I said, oh, that's good, And he said, well, he says a lot of times it can be the change, right? So if you're 0.55 today and a year from now you're 1.55, that still might be considered low by some people, right? Because it's way below 4. But that full point increase, as he explained it to me anyway, would raise some red flags, particularly if it had been, less than a year before your prior exam. There's another possibility to consider, something else that I have some unfortunate experience in. It could be a UTI. In fact, some of what you said leads me to believe it might be. UTIs, urinary tract infections, are less common in males than females, but they happen. I don't know a lot about the causes other than supposedly, I guess, having lots of sex is among them. UTIs can present as anywhere from something that kind of feels inconvenient to extremely painful. And when I say extremely painful, I really mean it. You know, anytime you urinate, think about being stung.
It burns.
Yeah. Think about being stung by bees, lots of them in the wrong place. That kind of painful. But it's also true, lower grade UTIs also exist. And while they're not as painful as the full-blown thing, they are certainly no fun. So what happens is you get this urgent need to urinate, you get there, and then you can barely go. And then, you know, minutes later, you got to revisit the bathroom urgently because there's something there. You can't get it out. When you finally do get it out, it hurts like hell. The first time this happened to me, it was on a Friday. I finally waved the white flag and I called my doctor, who I hadn't seen in a while. And he said, I said, can you prescribe me the antibiotics or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
And he says, not until I see you on Monday. Well, I wasn't going to last until Monday. So I took a flyer, and I can tell you this with conviction. If it happens to you and you don't have access to these antibiotics, it's got 3 words for you: apple cider vinegar. I did just that when I was in that excruciating pain on a Friday, right? And apple cider vinegar.
I thought it was music. I started dancing.
Apple cider vinegar knocked that UTI out in 3 days. By Monday, it was 100% gone. I have done that now 2 or 3 times when UTIs, or what I think are UTIs, have presented, and the result is always the same. Apple cider vinegar works and works fast. In fact, of all of the natural supplements that I've used, and this is quite a statement, apple cider vinegar is in the top 3 for impressive, at least in helping with that problem. So long story short, see a urologist, see a doctor who can properly, diagnose you. Prostate cancer, from what I read, is actually quite common in older males, but usually slow growing. Usually, key word there. Don't assume anything, right? Until you see that doctor and whatever follow-on tests that he wants to run. And always keep a bottle of apple cider vinegar handy, okay? It helps. It really does. Forget helps. It killed it, no more problems. So that would be my experience with the prostate.
So let me tell you how this conversation should go with your urologist.
Okay.
Go to the urologist, let them do the digital exam when they stick their finger up your butt and they massage your prostate. Let them do the PSA test. Let them do all the things they normally do. If your PSAs are high, and they say to you, well, your PSAs are really high, we're going to have to go in there and do a biopsy. Then I would say to your urologist, aren't there better markers than PSA? Ask them. If he says no, that's a lie. And I'll tell you why I say it's a lie. Because PSA is a protein that's also found in breast cancer. So clearly it's not prostate specific. Okay? It's called prostate-specific antigen because they thought it only occurred in the prostate, and it doesn't. It occurs in breast tissue, too, of women, not even men. Say to him, if PSA is such a great, reliable indicator of prostate cancer, isn't it true that it goes up after an orgasm? And he will say, well, yes. And then I would say, so you're telling me it's really not an indicator of cancer. It could be an indicator that I had sex last night, right? And then he will feel stupid. But that's okay, because you need to make doctors feel stupid to bring them down so they can actually be good doctors. So then I would say, is there anything else that can be done as a marker of cancer? And because even if you do have prostate cancer, men never die from prostate cancer. I shouldn't say never. I'm sure that there's the 0.1% out there. I know a lot of men who were diagnosed with prostate cancer decades ago, and most physicians just want to be vigilant, they call it. Well, we're going to be vigilant. We're going to check it every year, see if it gets worse. And there's things you can do for prostate cancer. Number one, have more sex. Carl, you're crazy. No, there are actually good studies that show that the more orgasms you have, the less likely you are to develop prostate cancer.
Wow.
Because you're doing something that men's prostates get all effed up when they stop having sex and stop having orgasms. In fact, I had a man on this show, very sad, Eric Rem from something. He passed away a couple years ago. His son reached out to me. He was on Superhuman Radio probably like 9 years ago when I met him at the metabolic convention in Tampa. And he told me that he cured his own prostate cancer. I had him on the show to talk about it.
Yep.
When we were talking, he said, I developed a very aggressive prostate cancer. I said, let me ask you a question. I said, in the period before you developed this prostate cancer, were you having sex? Were you having orgasms? He says, no, I hadn't had sex for 3 years because him and his wife were going through a divorce. It was a very tough time for him. And I said, well, there's a link between not having orgasms and developing prostate cancer. Look, your prostate is designed to spit constantly, make babies, populate the world. When you don't do that, your prostate gets sick.
Tired.
So start having more orgasms, start having more sex. If you and your wife don't get along or she doesn't feel like having sex, then self-stimulate, do what you got to do. But the more orgasms you have, the healthier your prostate will be. Number two, a very, very low dose of tadalafil, Cialis, 8 to 10 milligrams a day will allow your prostate to function better. You'll be able to urinate easier. If you do have any BPH, benign prostatic hypertrophy, it'll reduce it. Again, because it's doing what you would have done. Your prostate would have produced more nitric oxide if you have more sex. So the Cialis will do it for you. So those are some choices, but don't let them just go in there and biopsy you, because once they biopsy you, then you're going to start having erectile issues and all this other stuff that happens with that biopsy process. So, but ask them, come on, you got to have a better marker than PSA. They find PSA in breast cancer tissue, so clearly it's not specific to the prostate. And plus, doesn't PSA go like sky high after an orgasm? Your doctor's going to have to say, yeah, that's true. So then it's not an indicator of cancer. I could have just had sex last night. And then he's going to say, well, did you? Watch. That's what's going to happen. Yeah. Crazy stuff. Let's see. We have lots of questions. Oh, look at this. So Marco Pula says 3 years, no jerk off. So tadalafil or Cialis. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Low dose. You don't need enough to give you an erection, just enough to stimulate some production of nitric oxide for the prostate. That's all. Joel Jaw says it could also be something like an overactive bladder, but the drugs for those that are extremely unpleasant and can be worse than the condition itself. Very few men have overactive bladder. Most men who have overactive bladder actually have hypersensitive prostate. When you feel like you have to pee, it's in the tip of your penis. That's actually being transmitted from the prostate, that sensation that you have to pee. But yeah, obviously that's a good point. Okay, let's go to the next question. And that next question is from Ricky Rhodes, who says, I'm new to this show, but not lifting or supplements, and I'm writing to tell you about Synthogen. Never in my 20 years of doing this have I used something that makes such a difference. It literally, hold on, I got to stop this. It's going to go into a commercial. It's literally, sorry about that. So it's literally wipes out all delayed onset muscle soreness for me. I've never been this strong while dieting, and it improves my mood too. I've heard your explanation for why and how it works, but never for the mood. Am I imagining things? And if not, what's causing it? So do you find that Synthogen improves mood?
Yeah, and I have theories as to how that's happening. But the history is interesting because early on in Synthogen's development, this feedback was there, and in no small amount, But frankly, at the time, I dismissed it. Part of that was because I wasn't interested in boosting people's mood. That wasn't the goal, right, of the product. And another part of it was due to the test population that was using it. So I had given Mass a prototype formula to farm out to people. And for those that don't know, right, they're in Athens, Georgia. Athens is a college town, so it wasn't hard to find, right, or convince many students to try something new. The twist was they weren't gym rats. They were long distance bikers. So that's who got most of the first sample batches. And I would say, based on feedback, a good 75% of them came back and said stuff like, I can't quite put my finger on this, but I feel better. My mood's brighter. I've got more energy, stuff like that. Honestly, I just chalk that up to the endorphins from the ride. Nothing more, right? So I filed it away in the back of my brain, and I kept working on the other things that interested me more. Then the feedback from the final test group of guys came in, and these were mostly weightlifters. A lot of the same thing, or at least very similar comments. I still did not spend time on it because I didn't have time, frankly, to devote to it. When the formal product was launched and the early customers said the same thing, I could no longer dismiss it, right? It's real and it's there. So I'd say for a good 75% of people. So the question is, what's causing it? I suspect part of it is the TMG, trimethylglycine, in the product. It's a well-known precursor to SAMe, and SAMe is known to have effects insofar as fighting depression, right? It's also a hell of a lot more expensive than TMG, and TMG converts to SAMe, so you can save yourself some money by taking it. But it was similar also to what I saw people taking TMG over the years. It was just happening to a greater degree. And so why and how, to this greater degree, that too, frankly, is not well known. I would guess that Synthogen's ability to elevate and keep ATP levels elevated is a key driver also of the effect. Now, we think about ATP usually in the context of muscles, right? It's the energy that allows you to fire muscles for the first 1 to 5 seconds or whatever. But ATP in the brain, that could even be more crucial in terms of importance. In fact, your brain is the most metabolically active organ in your body, and as such, it is particularly sensitive to disruptions in energy, as your muscles are. When you diet, for example, your cellular ATP declines. Depends how severe the diet is, but the body senses this and makes changes. That same thing happens in the brain, right? That's happening in the muscles. I also speculate that Synthogen's orotic acid, which is not something that you see in a lot of products even still today, and its ability to regenerate ATP 3 different ways is way overlooked. It is spoken about in studies as to its ability to salvage the ribose pathway and build nucleotide pools, which I've talked about before. And that's before TMG's effects. There's also something called Elevate ATP in there, which has some science behind it, not all of which I believe, but a fair amount of it. I don't think by itself it's anything great. I do think in combination with other ingredients it is. One last but very important thing when it comes to ATP. For ATP to be biologically active, it must be bound to magnesium. Now, magnesium doesn't look very sexy on Synthogen's label. It doesn't look very sexy on anyone's label. It's magnesium. But it is the spark that makes, high brain and muscle and other tissue levels of ATP possible. All of that likely contributes, I think, to the effect that he and other people have been describing. I wish I had studies to, back this up. I don't. It's an educated guess. However you slice it, though, many people feel good on it. And Synthogen's not cheap. It never will be, due to the many nuances that I've baked into it, some of which I just described, plenty of others I didn't. When you do use it, though, you for sure will feel it. Almost everyone does. His prior comments about how it wipes out DOM, delayed onset muscle soreness, I can't count the number of emails and texts I've got about that. And that, I think, more than anything, is what matters to people the most. They take it, they feel something. It does something. It helps them. That's the ultimate litmus test of a product. And in my opinion, as the guy that formulated Synthogen, the boost in mood is a bonus. And it's probably an important bonus, too. Man, I don't know. I wish I had studies to back all that up, but that's what I think's going on.
Last question from the live audience before we take a break and come back with the BluePrint tip of the day.
Yep.
Let's have a comment from Dean Paulson. He said, the feds are coming hard at Kratom and Delta 8. Stock up. The current administration is owned by Big Pharma. Every administration is owned by Big Pharma. Look,
yeah,
Big Pharma makes more money than the tobacco industry. And politicians love industries that have a lot of money because they donate to their campaigns. And people say, well, businesses aren't allowed to donate to campaigns. So I'll tell you a quick story. When I first moved to town here, I owned a telemarketing company. And I wanted to get on the good side of the state attorney general, because back then telemarketing companies were being slapped around by AGs all over America.
Yep.
And so I donated a very large amount of money to the then who ended up winning attorney general's race. And I donated it without realizing from the company bank account. And I got a call from a nice girl. And she said, oh, we're so happy that you donated. This is so generous, but we can't take a check from a business. Like that businesses can't donate to these campaigns. I said, oh my gosh. She goes, you could always write the check to yourself and then write us a check from your personal account, which I did. So, the idea that businesses don't influence political elections is complete hogwash, complete hogwash. I've even heard about companies giving their employees a bonus that month and for donating money to a campaign. Well, they basically reimbursed them the donation. So who really paid for the donation? The company did.
Yeah.
So the industry depends on the money from Big Pharma. And of course, Kratom and Delta 8 actually provide value. And, we already know Oxycontin got knocked off the shelf because of Kratom. And now sleeping pills like Lunestra and others, people aren't taking them anymore. They're like, Delta 8 works better. I don't wake up groggy. I actually feel good. Yeah, of course. It works. Of course.
Yeah, the bottom line here is you're talking about two products that threaten big money makers for Big Pharma. It's really that simple. I've witnessed the assault on Kratom since day one. They tried to slip it through at the federal level. Literally in the middle of the night, they got caught. They then tried to ban it through the states. They're losing that battle. And now I understand they are petitioning the World Health Organization to ban that dangerous Kratom. And, it's just, it never ends. And they are, they will not stop, until they ban it, and they will lie, they will cheat, and they will do anything necessary to protect their profits. And that's just the way it is, folks.
If you haven't learned one thing, and Joel, I'm going to answer your question. If you haven't learned one thing over this pandemic and this vaccine and everything, is the government is made up of people who are willing to look into a camera and tell a bald-faced lie with a straight face. That is the prerequisite to be a politician today. They lied about the. Let's just look at this for a second. When Trump was in office and this same vaccine was on its way to being finished, Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, Keith, what's his name? Keith, the guy from all the politicians. I will not take that vaccine. I don't trust this administration. I'm not taking that vaccine. I don't trust it. Same friggin' vaccine now released under their administration. It's the safest thing in the world. Everybody needs to take it. You need to get it now. Don't. And meanwhile, don't forget, the vaccine was released predicated on the fact that it would stop you from getting COVID. Well, that's not happening. So now it's going to stop you from getting really bad symptoms. That's not happening. So if you think the government is honest, you are a fucking idiot. Okay, that's it. There's no other way to put it. Okay. Now, Delta 8. Let me just say this real quick for Joel, and then I'll let you speak. Last BluePrint, 2743, show 2743, the last hour of the show, we talk about Delta 8. Delta 8 is a new form of CBD. It actually stands for Delta 8 THC, which is found in hemp, and it has amazing effects. It doesn't make you stoned like weed does, but it makes you relax, and it improves the quality of sleep so dramatically that I've had people tell. In fact, when you listen to that episode, my friend Bill says it saved his life. After being a 35-year pilot and not sleeping well for 35 years, he thought he would never sleep well again, and he's retired now, and his sleep sucked. And he started on night one. He took some Delta 8 from Knoll Creek, which is a sponsor of ours. And he has taken it every night since, and he said it saved his life. He sleeps so good. He wakes up feeling well rested. Delta 8 works. It's amazing. And you're right. They're probably going to try to take it away from us because it works. Nobody's buying Lunestra and Ambien now.
Yeah. The only thing I would add to that is this. We are right to call these people out on whatever platform that we can. But it is also important to take concrete action. And at least in the case of Kratom, I would recommend going to, I think it's AmericanKratomassociation.org. They are extremely well organized. They have stopped them thus far, which is no small accomplishment. And if I'm not mistaken, they did have something on their website about Delta 8. So hopefully they can be enlisted in the fight to keep both of these products legal.
Yeah, I hope so, because I use Delta 8 now to sleep. I take just one half of the gummy, the edible from Knoll Creek.
Yep.
Is a sponsor of ours. And I sleep all night long. I don't even get up to pee in the middle of the night. I wake up in the morning. I go to the gym. I feel great when I wake up. I'm not groggy. If I would use cannabis-based products, I'd be groggy. I'd be weaker in the gym. No, sir. It doesn't work that way. Delta 8 is a miracle. It's a miracle. And if you have social anxiety, you can take a quarter of a gummy and go out and feel great.
That's awesome.
All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we have the BluePrint tip of the day. So stay with us. Please post your questions. We'll be right back. Stay with us. If you've listened to Superhuman Radio for any length of time, you know I'm a big proponent of peptides. One of my favorites is GHKCU, the blue copper peptide. It has the ability to repair and regenerate more youthful expressions of skin cells, reversing the signs of aging. RestoraCell's Stem Cell Awakening Serum, along with their other products, contain potent formulations of blue copper peptide and only the highest quality organic ingredients. Superhuman Radio listeners can now save 25% site-wide. Buy their complete set and receive a free exfoliating cleanser. Go to shrnetwork.biz/blue and use the code SHR25. That's SHR25. Remodel your skin today. If you spend any amount of time sitting while at work like I do, I have the chair for you. The Backstrong chair from All 33 is the most comfortable office chair I've ever sat in. That's the truth. Their patented technology allows your body to move the way it's supposed to move while you sit. Designed by a chiropractor to position your pelvis in a way that stacks all 33 of your vertebrae into perfect alignment. The benefits of this ideal posture include relief of back pain, deeper breathing, better digestion, improved circulation, greater focus, sharper memory, and more productivity. Start experiencing these benefits today. Go to shrnetwork.biz/move and use the code SHR100 for a $100 discount on your Backstrong chair. Attention meat lovers. I've discovered a snack with just 2 ingredients, meat and salt. That is so tender and delicious you almost can't believe it. That's right, no soy, sugar, or other crap. Our partner Carnivore Snacks nailed it with these mouth-watering snacks. They have a variety too: ribeye, pork loin, leg of lamb, and more, all sourced here in the USA from regenerative farms. Claim your superhuman offer from Carnivore Snacks today at shrnetwork.biz/snacks. That's SNAX. Use the code superhuman for 15% off your first order plus a free 2-ounce pork loin. Remember those rectangular toaster pastries you used to love when you were a kid? Well, Legendary Foods has just made them better. The new cake-style tasty pastry is like nothing you've ever had before. With 20 grams of high-quality protein and less than 1 gram of sugar, you'll feel like you're cheating, but you're not. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use the code SHR10 to save 10% off your purchase of tasty pastries. Now available in cookies and cream, red velvet cake, birthday cake, blueberry, strawberry, brown sugar cinnamon, and hot fudge sundae. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use code SHR10 today. Circadian. Knoll Creek Hemp Company's Delta 8 soft chews are the premier Delta 8 product on the market today. Knoll Creek's Delta 8 is produced from high-quality hemp-derived CBD oil, and soft chews are manufactured using proprietary nano-emulsification technique that ensures the Delta 8 soft chew will timely deliver the desired effects cleanly and consistently from piece to piece. In a space where at least 70% of the products fail to meet label claims and where most users of conventional hemp products are left disappointed, Knoll Creek's Delta 8 soft chews are a product you can trust. Visit shrnetwork.biz/delta8. That's DELTA and the number 8 and use the code SHR20 to get 20% off your first order today. Is there something interfering with your happiness or ability to achieve your goals? BetterHelp can help. They will assess your needs and match you with a licensed therapist. This is not a self-help or crisis line. It's professional counseling done securely online. They have a broad range of experts and are available worldwide without having to wait in an uncomfortable waiting room. Get the help you need and start living a happier life today. Go to shrnetwork.biz/betterhelp. That's better, HELP, and receive 10% off your first month of counseling when you use the code SHR.
This is the Superhuman Channel, where we use oxygen for the power of good.
I got to thank All 33 for this Backstrong chair. You know, I have lower back issues. I've talked about it on the show. I have some compression in L4, L5, S1. And it's from lifting and not decompressing properly. I never had a reverse hyper available to me. This chair, because of the way it's designed, where your pelvis can move by itself, and the back of the chair is independent, where you can actually like sit up straight and find that your whole body just falls into place. And I take this chair for granted because I sit in it every day and I don't give any thought to it. Most of us don't think about the chairs that we sit in and whether or not they're helping us or hurting us. If you have an office at home, a lot of people working from home now, they're sitting at a kitchen table. They're sitting in a chair that's not designed to sit for 5, 6, 7 hours. You got to get this Backstrong chair from All 33. We have a special code that was just given. I want to just pull that back up again. You can see all the celebrities: Shaq, Tom Hanks, Justin Bieber, Cindy Crawford, Chuck Liddell, the famous UFC fighter, John Cleese, the actor. You get $100 off plus free shipping when you use the code SHR100. Go to shrnetwork.biz/move, MOVE. Appropriately, that's the link because it does. It helps you move. There you go. Rob, what is the BluePrint tip of the day, man?
Well, the tip of the day is about AST research. The amino acid GABA and the end of an era. So in 1992, AST Research was an innovative company that was really on a roll. They were first to market with ephedrine, and you can just imagine the impact that had in an era where nothing else really worked. I mean, you couldn't really, you certainly couldn't take it and feel it. Ephedrine, you could. They offered both a pharmaceutical and an herbal. The trade names were dimetadrine 25 and EPH 833, respectively. And you didn't need studies, like I said, to convince you that they worked. They were also, arguably, the first company to mass market a whey protein, which was a whey concentrate called VioPro. So it was with great excitement then that one day I walk into my favorite little health food store and I see something new from AST, and it's called GABA, or gamma aminobutyric acid. GABA, according to AST, was a growth hormone booster. And so there I am. I was 22 or whatever. I couldn't open my wallet fast enough, right? Not ever thinking I've got plenty high GH levels at that age. But I got home, I cracked the lid, and I had a look at it. It was just a singular isolated amino acid. It was snow white in appearance, and it was slightly powdery texture, let's call it. The instructions were to take 5 grams before bed on an empty stomach mixed in water. Fortunately, I did not adhere to my double the dose, hope for the most philosophy at the time, given this was AST. And right, I figured something would happen. So I was, I guess you'd call it uncharacteristically cautious. It was mostly tasteless, still is, and down the hatch it went. And as I lay down to bed, I wondered, right, well, what I was going to do. It didn't take long to get my answer. The top of my head started tingling. It went all the way down, I'd say to my shoulders, maybe mid-chest. And I started sweating bullets. And I actually became very anxious, mostly because I wasn't expecting it. I don't know if their literature at the time spoke to that quote unquote side effect, but most GABA today does. And you should be aware of it, because if you get caught off guard, it can be concerning. 15 minutes later, though, I was fast asleep. I stayed asleep and I was dreaming up a storm. AST had done it again, right? Products you can actually feel working, or at least doing something. As it turned out, that was AST's last real innovative product. But it must have sold pretty damn well, because they proceeded to sell it for the next 30 years until just recently. I went to the website the other day. They didn't have it. Maybe it's been gone now for a couple of months, but it can't be much more than that. Gone from the site. Couldn't believe it. Why? That remains a mystery. I would call and ask them, but my name is on a list over there. And no, I'm not kidding. When I was younger and I was so high on them, I called them so frequently and I asked so many questions. They accused me of working for the competition literally across the street from them at the time, EAS, Experimental and Applied Sciences. Anyway, they really seem to be struggling now as a company, and I mean really struggling. They're down to just a handful of products, and no pre-workout either, which is what that company was built on. But they're primarily selling 3 products now: a whey isolate, micronized creatine, and sugar, or what they call DGC, dextrorotary glucose crystals. And with a product and a name and a markup like that on sugar, they deserve to go under, in my opinion. Having said that, over the years, whenever their products were tested, they were always found to be true to label. I can say that about it. Yes, they did have some issues with bad batches of pro hormones I heard about. But their protein and amino acids in particular, were always true to label, as far as I know. Which is why when their GABA disappeared, I started getting emails from guys, because American-made GABA became getting very, very scarce. In fact, virtually all of the GABA that you will find for sale today comes from China. If it doesn't say anything, especially if it doesn't say anything, it's a pretty safe bet it's China. Walmart's GABA, you can find it, believe it or not, there now. Their Spring Valley brand has it right on there, made in China, right on the label. Since everybody shops on price pretty much, and you can now buy a kilo of it for around $20, almost everyone that was using US made material has stopped selling it, right? Mass, I think, is the last man standing here. They've got a GABA product called Gamma GH, which of course is made in the United States. But I literally couldn't find anyone else selling it. If you have another US source, I am all ears. I would love to know. I looked for hours and hours and hours the other day, called around, nobody that I know of has it. Yes, it's more expensive. I think the Gamma GH is $25 for 125 grams, which if you looked at the AST product when they had it, it's in line with that because they sold 100 grams for like $20. So you can see the massive price difference, right, between US and Chinese material. So the question is there a difference in quality? Yes and no. So let me explain. Chinese GABA is GABA. GABA, unlike herbal extracts with multiple actives, and they get it from various plants, GABA either is or it isn't, right? It's a relatively simple chemical amino acid. The US stuff, here's where it differs. The US stuff that I have used historically has a texture and a feel to it that is noticeably different. It's usually snow white and more of like a powdery consistency. The Chinese stuff is, most of it is an off-white. It's more granular, almost sand-like. And when you use it, it feels dirty. I don't know how to explain that other than, people who've used both know what I'm talking about. And so quick example. It's been a long time, but the last time I used Chinese GABA, it gave me a headache. Not once. Every single time I tried to use it, I got a headache. I'm a guy that gets a headache literally once every 2 years. I'm a blessed man, right? But that stuff certainly did. So the question is why? Why this big discrepancy? You can buy 1,000 grams of GABA for $20 or 100 grams for 20. There's usually a pretty good reason for it. With the cheap stuff, I'm speculating, but they're either starting with different material, synthesizing it differently, possibly skipping steps in synthesis. I hope not, because that's what got tryptophan in such hot water, or something else. Now, I personally think it's heavy metals or some other contaminant that's still in there, in addition to the GABA. That's just me. That's just my opinion. And while I don't think that will necessarily kill you, finding US material is worth the effort, in my opinion. Here's why. Even at the higher price points for the good stuff, an effective dose of GABA is still 50 cents or less, right? I mean, so why play games and, get something that either not going to feel good or really, or isn't GABA, or is GABA plus contaminants? I just don't want to deal with it. In terms of effectiveness, there is research on everything from a 4 to 5-fold increase, if transient, in growth hormone. There's also research done showing an improvement in insulin function or insulin sensitivity, as well as other benefits, many other benefits. Personally, I think it shines helping people with sleep. And let's face it, that's a huge roadblock, right, for a lot of people. Sleep is also intimately tied to immune function, and I needn't tell you why that's important today. So 30 years on, GABA is still a good investment. That's my take on it. So wherever you get yours, I say get it and use it, because it's still one of the very few products today that has a noticeable positive effect on your health, certainly on sleep, and sleep underpins everything. So that's the story on GABA.
GABA will also stimulate thyroid hormone production.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It will.
I was looking for a comprehensive list of the benefits, but suffice it to say, there are many. But the big one is improving the quality of your sleep, and I think it certainly does that. In 9 out of 10 people that I recommend it to, they'll come back and tell me, they're like, "Man, you were right. That stuff, I slept really well."
And parents who have children on the spectrum find some children respond very well to GABA, because it's a neuromodulator, but it suppresses neural activity. So
inhibitory neurotransmitter.
Yeah. So children who are a little hyperactive, or easily tweaked, just 500 to 1,000 milligrams of GABA 2 or 3 times a day seems to change their lives, can change their lives. Now, then parents say, yeah, but I got to give it to them 3 times a day. Well, it's natural. It's not a drug like Ritalin.
Right.
It's not, Ritalin is horrible. It's horrible.
Not going to have side effects like Ritalin.
Yeah, forget about uric acid buildup, the kidney function issues. I mean, and GABA doesn't do any of those things. So if you can get by with a gram of GABA 3 times a day, and your child's life is great. And here's something that increases brain GABA better than just plain GABA. And that's glycine. Glycine increases brain GABA better than taking GABA. So if you want to use GABA to sleep at night, but for whatever reason, the GABA in its raw form doesn't work for you, try taking 2 to 3 grams of glycine, and you'll sleep really well. You'll sleep all night.
I alternate between the both of them. Yeah, interesting you brought that up. I think I've heard you say that before, but I forgot it. That's a really good point.
Yeah.
As is, smaller dosing throughout the day. If you have problems with anxiety, this is not necessarily a 3 to 5 gram dose right before bed type product. You can use smaller amounts during the day and feel it.
I've even heard guys who have a lot of chatter in their head when they're going for a max lift take 500 milligrams of GABA before going to the gym, and they're just more focused. They did, this whole dynamic range of focus. And we think that only things that stimulate us create focus. And that's not true, because things that overstimulate us destroy our focus.
Right.
The same can be true about things that sedate. So if you take a little bit of GABA, you may not even notice feeling it, but you'll notice being more focused when you're under the bar and you're lifting. If you take too much, you may feel sedated. So you can usually use like 500 milligrams of GABA before a workout if you're one of those people who gets anxious. And because, like I could never use nose torque. If I used any of those smelling salts products before lifting, it washes me out. In fact, I'm not as strong. I get weaker because I get over and boom, everything falls apart. I lose focus completely. So let's see.
Yeah, it's a great product and many uses, as you point out.
Oh yeah, and if that doesn't work, bring out the big dog, Phenabut. Yeah, but thanks to that, so we were able to get here's a perfect example of government involved in medicine. Phenabut was taken off the market, but then only pharmacies could sell it. Compounding pharmacies, doctors could prescribe it. Now doctors can't even prescribe it, and compounding pharmacies can't even offer it. Why? Because it was better than benzos.
Yeah, way better.
It was better than benzos. So now nobody's buying Valium anymore. They're getting Phenabut. Oh, we can't have that. We can't have a healthier, less dangerous alternative to something that we can sell, hurt people, and make more money on.
Yeah. And so they did the same thing to that they're trying to do with Kratom and Delta 8. It's
an illusion that people are really the ones in control of America. We are not. They steal elections from us. I mean, it's what's happening today is horrible. I can't even imagine what it's going to take to get us out of this tailspin. I really can't. I don't even know.
Second Civil War, brother.
And on that note, Thanks for being here today. Thanks for all the questions and interaction. Those of you who are here live, you help make the show wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go to CoachRobRegish.com to learn more, and we will see you tomorrow with more Superhuman Radio. Thank you for being here. Thanks, brother.
Thank you.
Okay. See everybody tomorrow.